Hi everyone, in this MBilling video tutorial we are going to discuss group permissions. By default, MBilling has three groups: an admin, reseller, and user group. We do not recommend editing or deleting any of these groups. If you need a new group, you can make a new group and leave the original ones. Each menu that can be seen in MBilling is referred to as a module. These are all modules. Each module has four permissions: read, write, modify, and delete. Create is to create a new registry, modify is to change one, read is to view the entries, and delete is to delete the entries. So we open the administrator group. We can see that there's 5 columns. Module, which is the modular menu, permissions, which indicate which permissions are enabled. The third column is show in menu, which shows or hide the menu, and the last two are to hide the menu icons in the work area. The last two options apply to the desktop theme only, which is available in the full version of MBilling. Let's make a new group and call it Finance Administrator. This is just for reference. Right below the name field is a type field. This is where we decide which type of group this is going to be. In this case, it will be Administrator. Some modules have columns enabled only for certain groups. For example, online calls, you can see the trunk column. Even if we have a user access to online calls, they will not see this column, only the administrator. There are also others like this. Continuing with the tutorial, the type will be set to Administrator since this is a Finance Administrator. Let's pretend that we want this administrator to be able to create refills for clients and nothing else. We will click the Add Permissions for this group button, and then under Modules we will select the Finance menu. We will then set the permissions. We will give this all of the permissions except delete, and then we will save it. Now let's test this user. So we need to add a new user for this group. We will call this new user Finance User. We will fill in the fields and then select the new group we just made, and then click Save. So now we're going to log in as the new Finance user and test. We can see that the Finance heading is visible, but none of the submenus are visible. That's because we only enabled the main Finance menu in the permissions. We would need to enable submenus if we want the user to have extra permissions and access. We'll now log out of this user and return to the admin user. We go back to configuration and group client permissions, and then we will add the refill menu. Since the finance menu is added, we'll enable the refill modules, and then it will appear available to the user. We'll give it create and read permissions, and then we'll click save. Now let's log back in as the finance user and test. We can now see that the refill option is available. However, if we click it, we only get a loading screen. Why does this happen? Because the refill module is linked to other modules and it needs to read from them, but it doesn't have permission. So we will need to go back to administration and then group permissions. Then we will need to add the necessary modules with read permissions. We can set them so that they don't show in the menu. So we'll add the module permission, we'll add it to read as permissions, and then we'll uncheck the show in menu option. We'll also add the users module. The permissions will be set to read, and again it won't be visible in the menu. The same goes for the plans module. We'll add it with read permission only and hide it in the menu. These modules are linked to the refill menu, and it needs to be able to read these modules to properly create a refill. If one of these modules is missing, the refill module will not load properly. Now that we've added the proper permissions, let's click Save. We will now proceed to test the finance user again. Now that we're logged in as a finance user, we can click Refills and we can see that it populates the fields properly. We can test adding a new refill just to make sure that it's working. So we select the user, we add credit, and then we save the changes. We can see that the refill was added properly. We can also edit existing refills. Now let's log out and log back in as the administrator so we can demonstrate the icon permissions. To do this, we will change the layout to the desktop layout. This is only available in the full version of MBilling. Now that we're in the desktop layout, let's go back to group configuration. Now let's go to the administrator group. So let's say we want to hide the firewall icon. It exists in two places, in the system bar and also on the desktop. So we'll look for firewall module in the list of modules. And you can see the last two columns are show on desktop and show in system bar. So let's uncheck show on desktop and show in system bar and then save the changes. We will need to log in and log out again. Now that it's refreshed, you can see that the firewall icon is missing. That's because we've hidden it. We recommend testing this by yourself in a practice build of MBilling before using this with live clients. You can test all the different permissions options. That will be all for this video. Remember to subscribe to our channel. This video has been sponsored by Synapse Global, www.synapseglobal.com.